To the news lately, you've heard that there was another bombing in Kabul where an ambulance was loaded with bombs and blew up in front of the hospital in other areas. The world is in a terrible mess. And it says in 1 Peter 5:8 to be sober and be vigilant. For the devil walks around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may destroy. If you ever watch lions stalking, they look at those who are weakest and separate it from the main group to pounce on. It says in Revelation 12, Satan deceives the whole world. How? How does he deceive the whole world? Actually, the answer to that is back in Genesis chapter 3, in the last book of the Bible to the first, with 4 words. Has God really said? Has God really said that you can't take that forbidden fruit, that one tree God held for himself? Has God really said you can't do that? Sure you can. Just do it. It's good fruit. Just take it. Then you'll be able to make your own decisions. You make your decisions and don't regard what God had done. Just make your own decisions. Has God really said you can't do that? Is it fair that he keeps one tree for himself? And you can have only all the rest?
Yeah.
Is it fair? Has God really said what he says? Has God really said there's only one way to the Father? Through Christ. Has he really said that? Yes. Is it fair? I mean, there's all sorts of people who believe in other things. Are they all wrong? Is it fair there's only one way? One bridge to cross the chasm between here and him? People believe there's other bridges, other ways. Is it really fair that there's only one way to do it? Has God really said that? Has God really said to take one day of the week and keep it holy for him? To keep it free? I mean, almost all the sporting events are on that day. And the best movies are on that day on television. And sometimes it's the best day to do work. You know, maybe it's okay just to keep some days holy. Not all. Is it fair that we have to give up one day out of 7 for God? Usually means 1 hour out of one day out of 7. Is that fair? Has God really said that the root of all evil is money? I mean, isn't that the American dream and the Canadian dream, to get as much money as you can? To work, to succeed? The license plate says that the person who dies with the most toys wins. I'm not too sure what he wins, but anyway, that's what the license plate says. You work all day, all your life to get all these toys, then you die. Is the root of all money evil? I mean, that's actually what people want. Does God really mean when he says that that's the case? Does he really mean it when he says you can't serve 2 masters? For either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. For you cannot serve both God and mammon. Does it mean that your energy should be primarily promoted towards God if you're a Christian? Or towards secular life if you're a Christian? Can you really not serve both? Is it fair not to be able to serve both? I mean, let's face it, there's a lot of interesting things in the world to do. Can you not really serve them ahead of God? Maybe give some time to God in the off hours. Give a little bit to him. Does he really mean that you should spend your time helping the poor and the lonely and the homeless and those who are in prison, those who are destitute? Does he really mean you should spend your time doing that? Doesn't he really mean that we should be building great big edifices and mansions and buildings for ourselves? Isn't that where the money should be going? Does God really mean what he says? Is it fair what God says? Bill Gates has a famous little saying. He says, life's not fair. Get used to it.
Yeah.
The Bible is God's will, not man's. And what he's in it, what he has in it, what he says, he means. If we want the world to be better, we need to follow what God says.
Amen.
If not, it's going to continue going down the tubes like it is. Does God really mean what he says? Something to think about.